everyone. Welcome to the Quarterback Dentist. And it's an amazing session that we're going to spend today with a very good speaker, friend, entrepreneur, and educator. He's Dr Ahmad Al-Hassiny, and he's connecting from New Zealand. So we are here now in Madrid around 8 a.m. in the morning. And in the other side of the world, he's just ending the journey, right? You are around 6 something, so you are tired ending. I am ultra fresh, ready to start. So Ahmad, thank you for your time. Thank you for being here with us. And we're going to have a very, very interesting topic today. So the main topic of this session is going to be related to the essential texts and the things that dentists should invest when they are thinking in digital dentistry. So what is that type of technology that they should invest? What makes sense? What not? And of course, how to start. And I think it's a great topic to start since we met each other in IDS. So the first time that we met in person was 2 years ago in IDS. We were there in the Formula booth. You were giving there a session, a lecture, and the next session after you was me. And then we met there, we started to talk, and we make a very nice connection because we share our ideas, principles, and our passion of education and digital dentistry. So this is why we decide to create this session with you. You are one of the reference in education in digital dentistry. You have a very good focus and point of view since you are the audience and you suffer finding that information, that content. And if I'm not wrong, that's why brings you to create the IDD. So Ahmad, let's start, let's begin. And tell me why you decide to focus or make that shift from a normal clinician, that is, you're spending the whole time with a patient, to spend time where you are now in your beautiful studio with a beautiful chair in the background where you record and spend a lot of time creating content.
Thank you, Luken. Look, firstly, I just want to thank you, man. And it's been a pleasure to know you as a friend and to stay connected with you, but also to the DSD team to invite me on this prestigious podcast. So it is an honor to be here. Much like you, Luken, I think you hit the nail on the head. Look, it was just from pure pain. I'm a clinician like many people listening here. And the reason why I started IDD, or Institute of Digital Dentistry, is a long time ago. I mean, it feels like a long time for me. About a decade ago is when I graduated from dental school. And I was very lucky. Like Christian, my father was also in dental. So I graduated and I went into his office to work with my father. And he was, he's a big role model for me. And he was always into digital. Like when I graduated back in 2016, I went into the office and I got access to a few scanners at a time when no one really had scanners in New Zealand. I mean, we were one of the first ones. And really the thing that stuck out to me, even back then, was how hard it was to get information. It was very difficult, Luken. Even just to get a price from a sales rep about a scanner or a product, it was very cagey. No one would really talk about it. And I can remember vividly, one of the main reasons that I started IDD was I was sitting in a dentist study club, like a group session. And at the time, a sales rep came to the front and he had a 3M True Vision. Do you remember the 3M?
Yes, for sure. That was the first scanner that I ever used in my life, was the 3M with the dust there that you put in.
Yeah, exactly. The powder and everything. It's crazy. And he went to the front and, this was the time of Trios 3. Trios 3 was around and that was a fantastic scanner. And this rep went to the front and he was saying, this is the best scanner in the world and it has all these amazing features. It's the most accurate scanner. And I can remember sitting there because at the time I had access to CEREC, Omnicam, Trios, and Planmeca. And I can remember just feeling like this is wrong. I'll never forget that moment. That was really the pivotal moment why I just wanted to share information about digital dentistry. And look, just like how we can connect today, the power of the internet, it's amazing that I'm in literally the corner of the world. And because of the internet, I can reach so many colleagues. And so that's really what started it. I think it was just my own frustrations with how much disinformation there was in the industry. And I have to say, even though there's a lot of people like me now and information is widely shared, like on Facebook groups, I still feel like there's a lot of disinformation still. It's just different style now, a lot of marketing.
Yes, I always said that it's so hard for a dentist to take the decision in what to invest because things are going too quick. The equipments are
Yeah.
coming every year, many brands, many options. So when you think you have the answer, four new things are coming back to the market, and then you think like, okay, so now what is the right one? And when you try to find information, the information is coming from the main brands that they are trying to convince you to buy the product, exactly what you mentioned about the 3M. And it's so hard to have that knowledge to say, no, no, what you're saying is not correct because that another brand is doing this, this, and that, or in my hands, that's very cool, but I need something different like this, and that. And I think it's a great conversion point that we're talking now because we suffer exactly the same. And I think that you're talking about 10 years ago, you mentioned, but it's still an issue. Still nowadays, people are struggling to find, let's say, pure information that is not coming from the main brands, because also the main articles, all the research, usually they are paid by the big brands. They're trying to move the market in their side. So that's one of the main reasons of this podcast. We want to bring topics that are completely open without having brands that are sponsoring this session, this podcast, so we can talk completely open and bring our realities. And coming to the first topic, that is about education. No, it's about what should be the first investment. And I always said that it's not that when you talk with people about investment, they think in devices, equipments, and they say, guys, stop there. Your first investment should be in education. When you know what you want, then it's going to be easier for you to make that selection. What is the real equipment that you need? If that should be your first step. Because many times when you start to analyze and you learn, you decide that maybe your first investment is not in equipment. Maybe you need to work more in your workflows, in your team, in your facility, in your marketing, because it's one of your weak points. And that's why I always say that education is the step number one. And I'm sure that you are completely agree with me, since you create the IDD, is create content, create education, because you suffered that. So you bring your personal story, and I want to hear from your side one of your realities, and tell me a real story, something that you bought because they convinced you, and then you realize that was not exactly what you was looking for, or was not what you expect.
Yeah, I actually have a number of stories, Luken.
And
I'll tell
you
you
have
why.
many.
So,
I'm very lucky
so
because nowadays I'm not a clinician. I'm more focused in the educational part, and I'm not struggling there in the chair. So that's why your comments will be very, very valuable for us.
yeah, like I'm still a full-time clinician. I still love practicing dentistry. Even though I really love education, I mean, still on the tools in New Zealand, and me and my father and my brother, we run a family business and we operate 41 chairs. So, and a digital lab. So I see the lab side, I see the clinic side. Look, just to give you a couple of examples, and I totally agree with you. Education, beats any sort of investment, and you should never rush to just buy something. And I'll give you an example of this. When we first started digital dentistry, we bought an E4D. And the reason why we bought that, there was either E4D or red or blue cam, CEREC. There was only two systems back then, two systems on the market. And my father really didn't, he was worried because, this was all very strange. And so naturally we went for the cheaper option, E4D. And, E4D was good for its time, but it had problems with it. There was some issues. It wasn't quite good as CEREC, but it was okay. And that's why we bought the next product, which, became the Emerald, the Planmeca Plan Scan before the Emerald. And they had some issues, not so good at edentulous, these sort of problems. So we bought Trios to fill the plugs that we were facing issues with. And then we eventually bought CEREC. So this is why I had the Omnicam Trios and a Planmeca scanner, all of them. It wasn't to create IDD. It wasn't this dream of making an education platform. It really was, we were trying to fix issues that we were having with other products. And this is how I landed in this position of having access to so many scanners, because that led to the education. But I'll give you an even better story, because I'm the digital guy, right? And I'm supposed to be the guy who always reads the digital stuff. Recently, when the 3D printing boom happened and everyone's talking about 3D printers, I got influenced like a lot of people get influenced by, social media guys. And at the time, there was a certain dentist who was really pushing Envision Tech printers. And, I didn't want to be left out. I really felt FOMO. I had the Form Labs at the time, but you remember Form Labs, Form 2 days. It was really just models and surgical guides. And this new Envision Tech, they were talking about dentures, everything. And so I just rushed and bought it. No education, no thinking, no nothing. And I can tell you that was probably the most costly mistake I've ever done in dentistry, because at the time it was around 25,000 US or something like that. And now, fast forward, the company has totally pulled support from New Zealand. I think everyone realizes Envision Tech is kind of going downhill with their printers. And I'm not joking, it is literally a paperweight in the middle of my practice, just collecting dust. I can't use it. And so, that really hits home, because I feel that pain when you buy a product, either because of a lack of education or a lack of training sometimes. A lot of people buy CERECs and they don't use them. They sit in the corner of the clinic collecting dust. So I totally agree with you. I think the education piece is critical. And I really think the easiest way to make an investment decision, because I agree with you, it's quite difficult these days. It's difficult in different ways. We have so many options, but we also have so much education out there. And if you just spend time talking to someone you trust, a colleague, so reach out to me if you have to on Instagram, anyone, even Luken, we will help. But if you just sit down and figure out what you want to do, someone who's done it before you can lead the way and guide you. I mean, it's really key that someone is not always a sales rep. I mean, I love sales reps, but they do have, a conflict of interest. So this is why I think it's important to have that objective point of view.
Yes, and definitely you're a reference with that. How many brands of scanners do you have nowadays?
Over 30 scanners are on the market. I kid you not. Every scanner, I've become I hate the word because I'm too old for this, but influencer in a way. But so I review and I test products. I'm like a tech YouTuber for dentistry now. I don't know how I achieved this, but it's a fun ride. And so most scanners that are released, I get access to them and I'm testing them and I'm providing the company feedback and I'm doing reviews and all these sort of things. And it's been challenging. It's been challenging to kind of toe the line and get along with every company. But so far, I'm good friends with a lot of these companies. And honestly, from most of my interactions with them, most of them are really good people. They're really trying to make a change and make good products.
And since we're bringing that topic, you said you have around 30 different brands. You said you have around 40 something chairs, right? So basically you have one scanner per chair. Can you mention your top 5 scanners in your chair, in the one that is behind you when you have a patient there?
Yeah.
What are the scanners you can have there, the 31? You have the
Very, very easy. It's always the top 5. The top 5 are the top 5. And I would say, look, I'm a big CEREC guy. I do a lot of same-day dentistry. A lot. Every single day. You can see it on my Instagram. I share my stories of my clinic. Every single day I'm updating what I'm doing. So number one I use most often is CEREC Prime Scan with a Prime Mill. Most often. And that's not because the scanner is the most amazing scanner on the market. It's a great scanner. But that workflow is amazing. So I always recommend to people, if you want to do same-day dentistry, this is an option to think about. Of course, there's also budget to think about. You have a global audience. And I know the feeling of that. So advice to someone in America is not the same advice to someone in the Middle East or something like that. Now, the second one I would say that's really exciting these days is Shining 3D Elite. I think with this intraoral photogrammetry, I genuinely think it was a game changer. we do these scanning awards in IDD. We get dentists to vote and these sort of things. And it was actually our scanner of the year for last year. I think this was an amazing product. And then, of course, there's the just generally good scanners that I always use. And that's quite simple. It's Trios 5. I use that frequently. And if someone is using my Trios 5, I'm using Meta i900. That's the top 4. And then if I just had to throw a really good low-cost option that I feel for the cost, it does really good performance, I would say it's AlliedStar. This is a Chinese scanner that was acquired by Straumann, and I genuinely think it was probably one of the best acquisitions in intraoral scanners. They chose a very good scanner.
I'm very, very aligned with you. With the AlliedStar 100%, we have a very important KOL that also is one that is a speaker from AlliedStar. And surprised me the first time that I used that scanner, the wireless one. I get completely surprised about the quality, the accuracy, how fast, and how affordable. So I think definitely it's going to be one of the big players in that, in that level that is not the top 3, but can be the first or the second in the second line. I agree with the CEREC. Definitely CEREC was one of the first one doing all this, or they are the pioneers in the chair side. And the 3Shape, for sure, they were all with there. And I have one more that I remember that the first time that we met, we had a dinner with Formlabs, with the KOL from Formlabs, and we were talking about this, and I mentioned the Itero. And you guys completely surprised when I mentioned the Itero. Like, no makes any sense for me. And the main reason is that they're like two big teams, let's say, in digital dentistry, is the one-day dentistry or the big picture approach, the interdisciplinary approach. And in that second approach is when I think the Itero can be a big player. And nowadays, with the acquisition of the exocad and all these, and the neofacial scanner, I think that definitely is going to be a reference also in the chair side. But it's not the topic of this session, just to create some awareness of one of the other episode that we're going to have that's going to be related exactly to this. But bringing back to the educational part, do you remember what was that course that really, really impacted you somehow with an amazing educational experience, or that content that, boom, opened your eyes and you said, this is the way to go?
I'll be honest, Luken, it's fascinating. I think in any dentist career, there's some certain things that totally change your career. I agree. Like, I would say that course that changed my life was actually an implant course. That doesn't quite relate to digital dentistry, because when I graduated from dental school, I don't know about you guys in Spain, when I graduated from dental school, we had done like 10 extractions. It was a very limited experience. And so really you get out into the real world, and the first few years is hard. You're just learning 100% of everything you can, because really you're more like a beginner in dentistry when you graduate, a total beginner. You really don't know much. And after a few years, 4 or 5 years, my father does implantology. Doing a course like that really opened my eyes to surgery. But if we bring it back to the topic of digital dentistry, I think with digital dentistry, it's more like an evolving journey. I can't say there was like one course that I was like, wow, this is amazing. Because the reason why I say that is I feel like digital dentistry is just the natural evolution of dentistry. It is not like a brand new skill. Of course, scanning is a skill, but it's not like doing implantology. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It doesn't open up a new treatment modality that you can do for your patients. To me, digital dentistry is an evolution of how we practice, and it is now clearly the way forward. When I graduated 10 years ago, a lot of people didn't believe in digital dentistry. I remember having arguments and debates about if scanners are accurate. This was a very big, point of contention with scanners. To me, when I look at digital dentistry, it's not so much there was a one course that changed my life, but it is the constant ongoing learning. And it still happens today. And it relates back to what you said. It's just because the industry is changing so fast. Look, I remember the first time I scanned a patient, it literally took me like 20 minutes. 20 minutes, upper, lower, and bite. And now I can scan a patient in 30 seconds. I kid you not, consistently. And to get to that point, I really don't believe it was a single course. I think more important than a course, it was just practice. I think this is one thing that dentists don't realize as much as they need to. With digital dentistry, there is a lot of practice involved, and that can be scary because a lot of dentists, we're busy enough. They don't want to do that extra work, but it's a necessity, and it's like any skill. It's like the first time you do any procedure, it takes double or triple the amount of time, and you practice and you practice and you put in the hours, and then you get better at it. And how far you go with digital dentistry depends on your own practice, your own desires. Some people, they learn scanning, they master scanning, and they stop. Some people, they want to learn more. They get into design, CAD/CAM, AI, 3D printing, and they keep going. And when I reflect, about one amazing course, I really can't imagine anything in digital dentistry that overnight was like a mind-blowing experience. It really has been like a 10-year journey.
And okay, I completely agree with what you are saying. I think that I remember when we were giving courses, our main focus was to convince people that digital was the way to go. And then we start to explain people how to take advantage of digital. Nowadays, the quorum is completely different. People is like, okay, dentistry is the way, digital dentistry, but how I can take advantage of this? So definitely it's not analog and digital. Now it's only one dentistry. That is the evolution. That is the digital dentistry. Is the way to go. And also about the content. There are many postgraduates talking about digital dentistry. It's a postgraduate about digital dentistry, and I'm completely against that, because it's impossible to create one specialty about digital dentistry because it's inside all the specialties. So even that means that even the people that knows about digital, they don't even get it 100% what means digital dentistry. Because imagine you're taking a postgraduate 2 years about digital dentistry, you learn the equipments that are available. So in the next 2 years, you need to take the postgraduate again because the new equipments are coming. and you cannot give one postgrad about everything. So that's why, and I have this discussion also with Christian, and he said it not makes any sense. The thing is, digital dentistry should be inside each one of the postgrads in the world, in all the different areas, because you can really take advantage of that, because it's the way to go. It's like you need to take an impression for implant, from prosto, for endo, whatever. So it's exactly the same. So digital dentistry should be there. But I want to challenge you more because you didn't give me the right answer, and we are talking about in what to invest. So if the people are all listening to us, they want to take a course and they want to start, they really want to start to implement digital dentistry in the right way, can you mention 3 courses that they should take to start the journey or to improve their skills if they are in a different level?
I can be biased, right? I run my own courses.
Okay, of course. The thing is that people are gonna need to fly very far, right?
We have an online training program at IDD. This is why, because I'm so isolated in New Zealand, I had to create like the Netflix of digital dentistry. Look, I'll put it this way: the most important first step, if you're starting off, genuinely starting off with digital dentistry, and you have no idea, the most important first step is find a really good local intraoral scanning course, because this is the fundamental thing. You need to just understand how to scan. In the same way, when we were dentists in undergraduate studies and we spent 4 or 5 years taking impressions and learning how to do it and all the techniques and tips, I think this is the most important course, is how to scan. And on top of how to scan is how to manage the soft tissue, how to manage the saliva, because this is still a problem around the world. We run a lab, so I see a lot of the scans that come to our lab, and still dentists don't use retraction cord for crowns and these sort of things, or retraction paste, but this is a whole different topic. I think if you're a total beginner, you really just need to understand, the fundamentals. You don't really need to understand hardware so much. What type of scanning technology, confocal or triangulation. Honestly, I don't think this is relevant in day-to-day clinical practice. You need to have the hands-on skills. You need to have someone that shows you how to hold a scanner, how to retract the soft tissue, how to maneuver to get a very fast scan. And then you just need to practice like crazy. I genuinely believe the fastest and best way that you can get good at scanning is just to do hundreds and hundreds of scans. Of course, your first course is to understand the fundamentals. And we run a lot of online training programs, a lot. And then from there, you can take it as far as you want. I think when dentists learn how to scan, this is really the gateway to digital dentistry. Then you can do anything you like. Obviously, DSD runs the probably best smile design course in the world. So if you want to go down that route of smile design and smile harmony and treatment planning, this is a perfect route for you. If you are not into this sort of thing, from your scanning foundation, you want to go into aligners, you want to go into orthodontics, you can go into this route. Also, there's this other element now of CAD-CAM. CAD-CAM is really big now, and I don't mean we have to replace the laboratory technicians. I love labs. I own my own lab. But I think, dentists can now decide, do they want to incorporate 3D printing in their offices for simple things like surgical guides, like splints, etc. And I really don't think there's one single pathway for any dentist because we are so different in what we do, how we practice. Like something like an implantologist will have totally different needs in terms of training to someone who is a prosthodontist doing crown and bridge and rehabs. But I think, the critical skill for anyone is intraoral scanning. This is a critical skill. You should be so confident with your scanning that you can scan any indication. Every single indication in the mouth can be scanned these days with full confidence. And I always joke to, the colleagues who train with us at IDD, whether it's online or live training, I always tell them when you start digital dentistry, I want your impression material in your practice to expire. You should stop using it. You should find that you have to throw away all the Improgam and all these things. And that would really be my advice for total beginners. It's just mastering scanning. That is really the key. And then how far you take it, it depends on your practice.
I'm agree with you, but at the same time, I'm bringing one more time the topic of quadrant dentistry versus the interdisciplinary approach. And I think that we should move one step before, because as I said, I want a scanner, but what is the right scanner? And then how are you going to use that scanner? When to use that scanner? What are you going to use? How are you going to use that information? How I can take advantage of that? Is only the scanner enough to really create a good treatment plan? Do I need more? So, and of course, I'm biased one more time as you, and we are not only about smile design. That was DSD around 8 years ago, and we also evolved because we saw exactly what you mentioned, no, and what we discussed here. Dentists, they need something else. Smile design is one piece. A scanner is one piece. The execution is one piece, but how to connect the dots. And that's basically one of our first courses about that. It's like building your roadmap. So you can see the big picture, you can see all the possibilities, and then you can decide where to go. Because there are people that already have scanners, but they are using the scanner exactly as they use an analog impression. So they are not taking advantage of it. And there are ones that want to invest in something different. So what is the next step? Or if I take in a scanner, what are the possibilities? Can I do something different than with the analog? And I think that should be, for me, the first step, the first course that every dentist in the world, from my point of view, should take is about that. Is you need to build your roadmap. So you need to understand what are the possibilities. You need to understand your actual situation, because it's not the same for a practice like yours. You have 40-something chairs with all the equipment or possibilities. Your family is in the business. That's someone that just end the career and they say, okay, now I have my title. What should I do? And they have my scanner because I watch the IDD videos, and I have my T-shape or my CEREC. And what's next? How I can take advantage of this? So definitely, and you are right, is not one straight answer. It's a path, and they need to analyze where they are to really take advantage of it. And I
What's
agree.
interesting about that topic, Luken, the really interesting thing about that topic, and I really think education is critical in this, because still, me and you and a lot of the DSD guys and a lot of probably our circle, I would say we're not the average dentist. And I don't mean that we're like amazing guys. I think we're just so deep into digital. Because the reality is, when you look at the statistics, even after all this education, many years of education, only about 10% of dentists do anything more than scan and send to a lab. Most dentists, they want to scan, and it's exactly like you said, they just want it to replace impression material. Now, I agree and you agree that this is not really, you don't really get ROI. It's not really that beneficial for you. I mean, it's useful for the patient, but for you, you can take it so much more. What's really interesting is why dentists are not taking that next step. You know what I mean? Because penetration rate of scanners is around 60% in the US. Milling machines is around 12%. Printers is a little bit higher than that. But it's nowhere near mass market. So a lot of dentists, even though there's a lot of education, I don't know if they don't know what the next step is, or they just don't want to do that. A lot of dentists, maybe they don't want to be technicians. They don't want to go further. They just want to do scanning and that's it. Even though there's so many advantages to be had.
Yes, and as I said, the market is putting a lot of pressure now. They're trying to convince you that you need the scanner, you need the printer, you need the milling machine, you need to have the software, you need to do this. So at the end, you feel overwhelmed. You say, guys, I'm okay with what I'm doing. My patients are happy. So let's stay in the comfort zone. And that's why I think it's too relevant, this educational path. You need to understand what you want, where you are, what are the possibilities. And you don't need to go and invest 50K once and buy all the devices to really take advantage of digital dentistry. And I want to bring one more topic that for me, one of was Christian was the one mentioned talking about this since, I don't know, 7 years ago, saying that the most powerful tool that you can have in your practice is your smartphone. The smartphone is even more important than a scanner or a CBCT or anything, because it's going to be the tool that will help you to communicate, to share, to take photos, to record videos. And with that, you can really take advantage of digital dentistry, because even if you're doing analog impressions and you send to the lab can digitalize that, send you the information, you start to approve. You want to take decisions, you share with the team that are expert that can also help you to take the decisions, and you receive back and you create a beautiful presentation, present to the patient, and you can be 100% on digital dentistry even without having equipment. So in my priority list, if we can recap somehow, I think first, of course, 100% education is the number one thing, because you need to understand where you are, you need to see where you want to be, and then you need to build your path. And there's a path for everyone. Everyone is in a different journey. There are people with more opportunities, different facilities, different possibilities, but there's a path for everyone. Then I think that you need to also do like a scanning of your practice, your workflows. You need to find your weak points. You need to have data. If you don't have data, it's so hard to take decisions. So you need to understand how you can do things that can give you a faster and bigger return of investment. As I said, maybe it's not the equipment. Maybe your issues is in your staff or is in your marketing. So that's why first you should do like a diagnosis of your practice. Then, of course, if you really want to jump full power in digital, the scanner is the number one tool. The scanner is the door that will open all the possibilities, and is the initial link, of course, after, as I said, the smartphone. What I'm saying is smartphones, because everyone have it, but not everyone is taking full advantage of that on digital. It's like an AI. Everyone is talking about AI, but we think that is so complex or so difficult because it's that in the software, and we can use AI every day, every second, even in the dental practice with our smartphone, that will help us to reduce our time, to spend less time, to be more accurate, to take better decisions. So this is the type of thing that I consider that dentists should focus on, to really be smart, taking decision, and not only listen what the industry is pushing to, because of course there's an interest and economic interest to sell you the device. After the scanner, I think that the 3D printer is the next step, and you are also mentioned that. And I was mentioning all the courses, like I don't know, around 80% of dentistry can be printed. I just was guessing about numbers. And the other day I asked to ChatGPT, and it said, what is the percentage of dentistry that we can take advantage of if we have a 3D printer? And the answer said it's around 70 to 80% of dentistry can be printed, depending of the specialty, all that. So imagine all the possibilities that you can have there. You don't need to spend time sending, receiving, the shipping, the failing. So you have a device there, you can do very quick, very accurate, more precise. So 3D printers definitely for me is deserve one topic, one episode of this podcast that for sure we're going to be sharing. And then I think, of course, the X-rays. I think that every dental office in the world, they should have digital X-rays, CBCTs or small one, whatever, but this is the way to go. And after that is when we can start to bring different devices. I think like the gadgets. We can start to bring the facial scanner. We can start to bring the jaw tracking devices or different tools that can help you to go to the next level. So I think that's just making a wrap up of this. I think this is one of my conclusions. What do you think? I want to hear your conclusions about this topic, Ahmed.
Yeah, man. I think, look, you've hit the nail on the head. I don't know about the smartphone thing, because I know that I see you guys really like the taking the videos and the photos and incorporating that in your treatment plan. I do agree that the smartphone is in every office. So in that light, it is the most accessible digital tool. And now with smartphone face scanners and that sort of stuff, it's crazy. To me, the number one tool, if you want to digitize, is a scanner. And I think you're totally right. You need to figure out what your budget is, what you want to scanner for. We do a lot of reviews on scanners. It's one of the most popular things we do at IDD, Institute of Digital Dentistry.com. And you just need to figure out, what is the difference between a $5,000 scanner, $5,000, to a $30,000 scanner. Because I can tell you it's not all about performance. There's a lot of differences that are not just about scanning speed. This is an ancient discussion now. After you figure out which scanner is the right one for your practice, the right one for your budget, which country you live in, the economic situation, this is the number one first step. I totally agree with you. The next step is a 3D printer. And this is only if you want to manufacture in-house. This is not mandatory. Not every single practice in the world will manufacture in-house. Some people have no interest in this. If you're not interested in manufacturing in-house, you use the other amazing tools like Smile Design, tools that can help you sell more cases digitally, orthodontic simulators, these things. Because as clinicians, we want ROI. If you want to manufacture in-house, there's a lot of ROI to be had. And I always want to leave this thing in your mind that, a team that is very well trained, but with fewer gadgets and equipment, will always outperform a team with all the, gadgets and all the tools, but with very little training. This is just always the case. I've seen too many practices, they buy all the stuff and it makes no difference for them. So it comes back to your point. You need to figure out what you want to do and how you want to do it. I agree the next step is a 3D printer or a milling machine. I know milling machines are not so popular in clinics because they're expensive, and they really haven't taken off like 3D printers, because 3D printers are much cheaper. But to me, it's not about 3D printer or milling machine, because to me, these are all output devices. You want to manufacture something. So you just need to figure out, what do you want to manufacture in your clinic? If you want to manufacture splints, models, surgical guides, these sort of things, composite crowns, because resin crowns are composite crowns, then a printer's perfect. If you want to do full arch restorations, you may have a technician in-house. You have to get a milling machine because, full arch zirconia, these things. So that is where all these pieces play. But I think one thing that you missed, Luken, that's critical, and we will get to this in future episodes, is CAD software. And this is a really big, important part that a lot of clinicians underestimate, because I believe the entire industry is making it much simpler than it is. It's not very complicated, but when you begin, designing crowns, designing splints can be incredibly intimidating. And I feel like now the industry is like this. Scanning is so fast. It's so good. Like you said, Allied Star, very economical, very good. And manufacturing, whether it's printing, whether it's milling, it's been there for many years now. It is so good. We know how to do it. There's workflows, there's processes. It's not like you're navigating something new. It's established. But still the biggest barrier is CAD, because you really have a few options. ExoCAD, which many dentists don't want to learn, or AI CAD, which, is still a bit scary for dentists. Other software like 3Shape, like Blender for dental. In a nutshell, they are all CAD software. And for you to cross this kind of boundary, this barrier from scanning to manufacturing, you either have to learn CAD software, learn how to use AI, or export scans to be designed by a lab that they return to you that you can manufacture. And I think this is a really big barrier for a lot of people. But overall, look, I would say, to wrap this up, is that, it's an exciting time. Although it changes very fast, I genuinely don't think dentistry has been this exciting in a long time. I don't know if you agree with me, but it's just amazing. It's amazing. Every 2-3 years, maybe less, every year there's some new mind-blowing thing. And, as much as it is scary, try to also be inspired by it. Try to ride the wave, and take it as an opportunity to upskill yourself, upskill your team, and practice dentistry in a way that I genuinely believe is much more predictable. It's better for patients, and genuinely it's better for you. It's just fun. All this technology and scanning and printing and face scanners, if you look at what our job is like now, it is really incredible.
No, and it's also about the stress, right? In the analog world, we know that dentistry is one of the most stressful careers in the world. So that's when digital brings an very interesting extra value. Is the outcome for the patient, the quality, the efficiency, but also when within ourselves will help us to practice with more enjoying, more happy, and everything that we can do to reduce a little bit the stress on dentistry, of course, is going to be always welcome. And Matt, I think that this episode was amazing. I think we can stay talking here like 2 more hours only about this topic. But don't worry, because you are going to be our guest in more episodes. And I think this one was like the initial summary. It's like the intro, because many of these topics then we're going to separate and divide it and go and deep dive a little bit more in each one of them. So, Ahmad, thanks for your time. What a pleasure. This is a great sessions. I think we have a very common point of view, and at the same time we have few different ones that I think is going to make this very, very interesting and very powerful for dentists that are listening and they want to become the quarterback of their offices. So Matt, thank you for your time. Let's keep in touch, and for sure I hope to visit you in the other side of the world, or I hope that you can come to this side. So thank you, and enjoy your day.
Thank you so much, Luken. Thank you so much, my friend. And yeah, I would love to visit you in Spain. And once again, a big thank you for the DSD team for inviting me on this podcast.
Thank you, Matt. See you soon. Bye.